Detachment, present, arms.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you please remain standing for the playing of La Mersat, the French national anthem by the GMC Bulldog Brigade Band, and please remain standing as the Bulldog Brigade Band plays the U.S. national anthem afterwards. For the French national anthem, guests are encouraged to remove their hats and place their hands over their hearts as they so choose. For the U.S. national anthem that follows, please remain standing and give the customary salutes and respect to our national colors. Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated.
Detachment, order, arms. Order, arms. Forward, rest.
Again, I'm Dr. Jeff Wells, the chairman of the Baldwin County Lafayette Bicentennial Celebration Committee and vice president of online academics and professor of history at Georgia Military College. I want to personally thank you all for being here today. A special guest goes to our president, Lieutenant General William B. Caldwell IV, the 21st president of Georgia Military College, who cannot be here today, but graciously agreed to host today's ceremony here on historic Grant Parade Ground at the old Capitol building on the grounds of Georgia Military College. The staff of GMC have worked hard these past few weeks to help get the campus ready for all of our guests. Moreover, I would like to thank Joel Trumbo, my opening ceremony co-chair, as well as Mr. Ken Franks and the staff of all of the engineering staff at Georgia Military College for helping me pull this event together. Can we please show them our gratitude? Today we celebrate the 200th anniversary of the Marquis de Lafayette's visit to Milledgeville as part of his 1824-1825 farewell tour across America. His visit here in 1825 included quite the celebration that involved nearly the entire community. Lafayette is known as a hero in two nations, as he not only championed the cause of freedom and human rights here in America, but as he returned to his native France, he championed the cause of freedom there as part of the French Revolution and is one of the authors of the first draft of the Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen, a document akin to the Declaration of Independence, which secured his place amongst the great crusaders for human rights in world history. Lafayette believed in respect for human dignity of all people, no matter their color, creed, or national origin. It is altogether fitting and proper that we celebrate this hero and champion of American independence and freedom today on the 200th anniversary of his visit to Milledgeville and in the very spot where he spoke to the citizens of this great city. To help us celebrate this event, we have a few special guests on the dais with us and in the audience. First, representing Lieutenant General William B. Caldwell Fourth, the 21st President of Georgia Military College, we have Colonel Nelson Craft, the Senior Vice President of the Junior College and Superintendent of the Corps of Cadets. We also have the Honorable Kathy Cox, President of Georgia College and State University. We have the Honorable Mary Parham Copeland, Mayor of the City of Milledgeville. The Honorable Andrew Strickland, Chairman of the Baldwin County Commission. Madame Delphine Cherudi, the French attaché to the United States from France of the French Consulate in Atlanta, representing the President of France and the French people. Chuck Schwam, the Executive Director of the American Friends of Lafayette, here today representing almost 2,000 members nationwide. Mr. John Trussell, Miss Billy Trussell, Miss Beverly Baker, and Miss Lynn Tate of the Georgia American Friends of Lafayette Committee. Ms. Helen Powell, Regent of the Georgia DAR, representing the thousands of women across the state and the daughters of the American Revolution. Mr. William Floyd, the President of the Georgia SAR, representing thousands of men across the state and the Georgia Sons of the American Revolution. The Marquis de Lafayette, portrayed by Mr. Charles Wissinger of Virginia. Governor George M. Troup, who was governor of Georgia during Lafayette's visit, portrayed by Mr. Richard Jocelyn. And we have the winners. We'll introduce them a little bit later or bring them up on stage a little bit later, but I want to point them out. We have the two winners of our kindergarten Say Lafayette's full name in French, the whole name, from our kindergarten class, Miss Hadley Pierce and Mr. Ziv Sigmund. And their teacher, Major Lori Tyson. You'll get to hear from those two cuties in just a few moments. I would also like to recognize a few people who are also very instrumental to GMC, our gracious host today. Two members of our Board of Trustees are here with us, in addition to the mayor who also serves on the board, Mr. Brooks Snyder. Mr. Brooks Snyder, would you stand? Elder Alan Wicker, who plays a mean saxophone. Mean saxophone. We also have a member of the GMC Foundation Board with us, Mr. Gus Pursley. Mr. Pursley, if you'll stand. And of course, former Congressman, Mr. John Barrow. And I certainly hope I haven't missed anyone, but welcome to all of you. Welcome. At this time now, I would like to call to the podium, representing General Caldwell, Colonel Nelson Craft, the Senior Vice President of the Junior College and the Superintendent of our Corps of Cadets.
Ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, cadets, rest. On behalf of the Chairman of Georgia Military College Board of Trustees, Mr. George Hogan, and the 21st President of Georgia Military College, Lieutenant General William B. Caldwell IV, welcome to historic Grant Parade Field. GMC is so honored to be able to participate in this once-in-a-lifetime event. Having the opportunity to hold this ceremony right here in the very spot where General Lafayette addressed the citizens of Milledgeville in 1825 is certainly not an insignificant thing. General Lafayette was the epitome of an authentic servant leader. And here at Georgia Military College, we strive to educate the future leaders of our communities, state, and nation, and mold them into authentic servant leaders that will seek to improve the lives of their fellow citizens and do everything they can to create thriving and prosperous communities. As we do this, General Lafayette and his story gives us a great model and example, as he certainly did that for America and his home country of France. Again, welcome to Georgia Military College. Thank you for being here, and we sincerely hope that you have a wonderful and safe day in Milledgeville celebrating this special occasion. Thank you.
You know, as you take your seat and you look out over the audience, you realize there are people here you missed. So there are three people I'd actually like to recognize. I want to recognize our city manager, Mr. Hank Griffith, and City Councilman Walter Reynolds from the 4th Ward, and our County Commissioner for the 5th Commission District, Mr. Scott Little. Thank you all for being here. I'm sure that I'll spot some other people as we move on. So just be ready. All right. So thank you, Colonel Craft. I really do appreciate your leadership and support, and I appreciate you and your staff for making this happen today. They've worked so hard. This is, like you said, a very momentous occasion, and we're so grateful to be here. We also have another special guest with us. I just introduced you to her for just a few moments ago. And I would like to call her to the podium, and that is the president of Georgia College and State University, Ms. Kathy Cox. Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Wells, and good morning, friends. I also send my welcomes to General Caldwell and appreciate Georgia Military College for hosting us on this momentous occasion. It occurred to me, Congressman Barrow, that over the years, your congressional district totally followed Lafayette's trail. Is that correct?
Pretty much.
From Savannah to Augusta back to Milledgeville. We're glad you could be here to honor this occasion. As president of Georgia College and State University, I am very excited to be here with you all today to celebrate this historic event that reminds us all of our American ideals, because those ideals were what General Marquis de Lafayette believed in and what his visit to Milledgeville 200 years ago was really all about. As a university president, I am constantly awed by the eagerness of my Georgia College students to use their abilities to make the world a better place. As a young French aristocrat and military officer, Marquis de Lafayette no doubt had that same spirit, and that inspired him to depart his native France to fight in the American Revolution, where he helped secure French support for the American cause, support that ultimately helped America secure victory. He ultimately returned to France and was considered a hero, as you know, in both the United States and in France. And some 40 years later, he was invited back to our country and thus began his tour as a guest of the nation, which brought him to Milledgeville and 23 other states. He lodged during his visit here in Milledgeville at the Government House, which I am told was located on the site of our current Old Governor's Mansion on the Georgia College campus before it was constructed. His stay is memorialized in a historical marker which many of you may have seen on Green Street on the side of the current Old Governor's Mansion. Today, it is heartening to see that we continue to learn from the past as we honor the courage and ideals that made Lafayette a national hero in both of these countries. As an institution of higher learning, we at GCSU challenge our students every day to face complicated questions and problems head-on, but to do so thoughtfully. Revolutionaries like Lafayette are still celebrated today because they came face to face with enormous challenges and the risk associated with rebellion, but they took action anyway because their values were larger than their fears. Liberty, equality, and freedom, that's what they were fighting for. And here we are 200 years later, still amplifying that message, still remembering, and that gives us great hope. Through events like these, Lafayette's memory lives on. Let us all continue to amplify the ideals that made him a hero and built our nation: liberty, equality, and freedom for the next 200 years. Thank you for a great celebration day.
Thank you, Madam President. That was a very, very enlightening and very wise group of words of wisdom. So when Lafayette was in America, there was an African American who had been enslaved, and he won his freedom by service to the Continental cause. He became a very good friend of General Lafayette, so much so that when he chose his new name, he became known as James Armistead Lafayette. Tonight at the reception, we will actually have a direct descendant, Moses Delaney, of James Armistead Lafayette. But today we have the reenactor portraying James Armistead Lafayette with us today. He's the chaplain of the Georgia State SAR, Mr. Ed Anderson. Mr. James Armistead Lafayette, would you please stand? Now I would like to call the mayor of Milledgeville, the Honorable Mary Parham Copeland, to the podium as she has a special presentation for the day. Mayor Parham Copeland, the floor is yours.
Good morning again, and it is my pleasure to be here with you all today. Thank you, Dr. Wells, for going ahead and setting protocol and establishing it so I wouldn't have to go back through it. However, if I can, if you don't mind, take a point of privilege to acknowledge my friend, Congressman Barrow. Thank you for being here with us today. I stand before you this morning to read a proclamation on the behalf of the city of Milledgeville. And as I read this proclamation, I thought, how fitting is it for the first female to be able to present this to you all. This means so much coming from me and reading of and hearing my history teacher in my ear talking about this very Civil War revolutionary time. This was just an honor to be able to do this morning. So as I read the proclamation, it reads, Proclamation, City of Milledgeville. Whereas the Baldwin County Lafayette Bicentennial Committee joins with the American Friends of Lafayette in celebrating the bicentennial of Lafayette's farewell tour in America in 2024 through 2025 and the 11 days spent traveling across Georgia's Creek Nation. And whereas this celebration honors the visit to America of the last of the surviving major generals of the American Revolution. And whereas in 1777, during the American Revolutionary War, the young Marquis de Lafayette became one of George Washington's most trusted major generals and considered by many to be his adopted son. And whereas the Battle of Yorktown, in which Lafayette played a major role, ended with Cornwallis' surrender and a divisive American victory that caused the British government to acknowledge the United States of America as a sovereign nation. And whereas during Lafayette's service, undertaken at his own expenses, he provided to be indispensable to the cause of American independence, both in his military and diplomatic roles. And whereas Lafayette was a lifelong supporter of human rights, advocating for religious liberty, racial equality, women's rights, and civil justice, and relinquished his own noble title during the French Revolution. And whereas Lafayette was an early and constant voice against slavery in France and in America, and whereas his farewell tour of America in 1824 to 1825, he visited the 24 states, always speaking about the ideas of liberty, justice, democracy, and human rights. Now, therefore, I, Mary Parn Copeland, of the city of Milledgeville, do hereby proclaim Wednesday, March 26, 2025, as Marquise de Lafayette Day, and I encourage all citizens to remember and celebrate Lafayette's farewell tour in Georgia and his visit to Milledgeville 200 years ago. Thank you.
Mayor Parham Copeland, thank you for that presentation, and we're so grateful that you will be spending the day with us promoting this great leader of human rights and American freedom, and we also look forward to your toast later this evening at the grand reception. At this time, I would like to call the Honorable Andrew Strickland, Chairman of the Baldwin County Commissioners, to the podium, as he too has a special presentation. Commissioner, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to say thank you to Dr. Jeff Wells and the Lafayette Bicentennial Committee for all the hard work that they have done in organizing the events that will take place all day today. This is a very important day to our community, and it couldn't take place on more hallowed ground. As for the proclamation, whereas the Baldwin County Board of Commissioners joins the Baldwin County Lafayette Bicentennial Committee and the American Friends of Lafayette in celebrating the bicentennial of Marquis de Lafayette's farewell tour of America, highlighting his tour of the then 24 states of the United States of America, including the 11 days spent traveling across Georgia and the Creek Nation, and his time in Milledgeville and Baldwin County. And whereas in 1776, during the American Revolution, Marquis de Lafayette became one of George Washington's most trusted generals and bled on the fields of Brandywine to procure our God-given rights by throwing the weight of the crown from the back of our America. And whereas the Marquis de Lafayette was one of the first abolitionists and human rights activists, U.S. Senator and leading abolitionist Charles Sumner describes Lafayette as a man who consecrated himself to human rights, became their representative, knight-errant, champion, hero, missionary, apostle, who strove in this cause as no man in history ever has. Now therefore, I, Andrew Strickland, as chairman of the Baldwin County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim March 26, 2025 as Lafayette's farewell tour of Georgia.
All right. Commissioner Strickland, thank you for that presentation. We really do appreciate your being here today, presenting that to us, and congratulations on your recent election as our commission chairman. We look forward to great things under your leadership. At this time, I would like to call on Mr. Chuck Schwam, the Executive Director of the American Friends of Lafayette, the organization responsible for Lafayette's national tour, and with a roster of over 1,500 to 2,000 members nationwide. Mr. Schwam, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Wells, and thank you for your leadership, and thank you, Georgia Military College, for hosting us today. It means a lot to the American Friends of Lafayette. I am the Executive Director of the American Friends of Lafayette and the National Bicentennial Chair, and our Georgia Committee is here today, and that's John and Billy Trussell, Bev Baker, and Lynn Tate, and they've been working for over a year to make sure that we do a great job for Lafayette and Georgia, and we are. Thank you very much. Well, thank you. The American Friends of Lafayette were born in 1932 at Lafayette College, and we're growing like you can't believe how much we're growing, because Lafayette is back. Lafayette's back. We're following his footsteps exactly as it happened in 1824 and 1825. 400 days, 8,000 miles. I used to have black hair about a month and a half ago. So it's really been a wonderful experience, and we're 6 months into it with about 6 months more to go, and it's just been unbelievable, the people that have come out to see this important man return to their communities. I asked the Georgia Committee if I could come to just one event in Georgia, what would it be? And their answer was Milledgeville. So here I am, and I'm honored to be here. Thank you very much. We estimate that Lafayette saw over 4 million people. He was only supposed to stay for 3 months, but he stayed for 13 months because everybody wanted a piece of Lafayette. Everybody wanted to see him. He wasn't supposed to go as far west as St. Louis or New Orleans, but everybody wanted to see this champion of human rights, this great general of the Revolutionary War. People came out in droves to see him. He was literally America's first rock star. When he arrived in New York, 90,000 people showed up at the docks to see Lafayette. When the Beatles came to New York, only 6,000 people came to the docks. So he truly is America's first rock star. We currently have over 250 events over the 400 days that Lafayette was in our country as we celebrate, commemorate, and educate the American public about this great man and a few other things. For instance, our relationship with the country of France. Without the country of France, we would have never won the American Revolutionary War. It's simple as that. And today, they're our oldest ally. Over 240 years, we've been friends with that country, and it's an important relationship, and Lafayette is the genesis of that relationship. Number two, we're trying to impress upon people that history is important. Don't get me wrong, math, science, very important, but all of the questions about the future can be answered simply by looking in the past. History is a very important part of how we want to proceed going forward. And lastly, of course, Lafayette. Not necessarily always as a great general of the American Revolution, but also as a human rights champion. Lafayette truly believed what we wrote in 1776, that all people were created equal. And when he came back in 1824, 1825, he realized we weren't quite there yet. But he didn't lecture us about those things. He did things with actions. As an abolitionist, for instance, he walked off the dais, just right like I would do right now, and hugged James Lafayette in the crowd. I got to be honest with you, people had never seen that before. A general walking down the steps, interrupting his speech because he saw a black man that he knew, that he served with, and hugged him in public. He also was a feminist. He treated women as the intellectual equals that they were. He didn't understand why we thought that their brains were different than ours. He just didn't get it. So he really, really believed that women were just as important as men to our society. He was a friend of the Native Americans. In fact, he even left a couple of events early, much to the demise of the people that were organizing those events, just to visit the Native Americans because they weren't included in the events that he was at. So I just feel like these actions were important, and it caught people's eye. And Lafayette realized we weren't there yet, but I think Lafayette would be proud to know that we're getting there, and we're on our way to becoming the human rights champion that he was. I just want to thank the state of Georgia, the city of Milledgeville, and everybody here today. Thank you so much for being here. Viva Lafayette.
So, Mr. Schwalm, you said that Lafayette didn't understand why we Americans sometimes thought that the female mind was different than our mind or inferior. Their mind is different. They're organized and know how to get things done. On this stage is the first woman to be mayor of Milledgeville. And we have President Kathy Cox, who is leading one of the largest regional universities in the state. Ladies and gentlemen, the future is female. So Lafayette was right. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Schwam. It's an honor to have you here, and we're so grateful that your members across the nation sent you to Milledgeville to be part of our celebration. At this time, I'm ever so proud to tell you about a small contest that we actually had at GMC. It was called the Say Lafayette's Name in French. Now, I'm going to tell you what his full name is in French, but you do understand that Madame Delphine Giroudi is here, and she's going to critique my saying of this so badly. But no, she's ever so gracious. But his name was Marie-Joseph Olive Roche Gibet du Mathieu de Lafayette. That's a $10 name, my grandmother used to say. He was actually named for a lot of the different saints that were associated with his family, and we see that a lot in the Latino culture, in the Spanish culture. But Lafayette's family was very steeped in history. And in fact, Lafayette was a wealthy young man of 19 years old and gave up a lot of his fortune to come here and fight the revolution and win American independence for us. So we felt like it was appropriate that our kindergarten classes actually compete in a Say Lafayette's full name in French contest. And the winner of that contest, we'd only planned on having one winner, but there was a tie. And I'll be honest with you, I wasn't going to tell one of those two cuties that they were not going to win this contest. So now the negotiation here was, and it took place pretty intensely, was that they didn't necessarily think they wanted to say that name out here in front of the Marquis himself. So they're going to come up and get their gift certificates to Dairy Queen, and they are going to get their certificates courtesy of the Milledgeville Baldwin Chamber of Commerce and Carol Lassiter, our CEO. And they're going to be able to take pictures, and they're going to be able to shake hands with the Marquis and Madame Delphine Giroudi. So the first one we're going to start with is Hadley Pierce. She's a kindergartner in Major Lori Tyson's class. So we're going to call her up. Thank you, Hadley, and thank you to the Pierces. That was wonderful. I kept getting videos from this strange telephone number, and there was this cutest little girl saying Lafayette's name, and I'm like, oh, that's the Pierce kid. and she did it well, very well, if she were able to do that today. And I understand, that's a very long name, and that's a different language. So I have the video proof. She won, and so did the next student. So there's it wasn't rigged, I promise you. These two are truly winners. All right, so our next winner is Ziv Sigmund. So I'm going to call Ziv up and give the certificate and the gift card. Now, I'll be honest with you. they're just precious, but as hard as I had to work to get that orchestrated up here, can you imagine Miss Tyson having to get that practiced and all of that, you know, so she kind of deserves a little something. Now, come on up, Major Tyson. So here's the thing. We were going to do a $50 gift certificate to Chick-fil-A, but they're closed for reconstruction. So we still thought chicken. I've got you 2 gift certificates for $25 each to Zaxby's. I know that was the cutest part of the ceremony. All of you are wonderful people, but you're nothing compared to that. We're very honored to have the representative of the French people with us today. Madame Delphine Giroudi is the Press and Communications Attaché from the French Consulate in Atlanta. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our guest from France, Madame Delphine Giroudi.
Merci. Mayor Parham Copeland, elected officials, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and thank you to the Georgia Military College for hosting us today as we pay tribute to one of my compatriots, the Marquis de Lafayette, a man whose extraordinary life left a lasting mark on both sides of the Atlantic. Lafayette's farewell tour across America was met with great enthusiasm, and Milledgeville was no exception. When the Marquis de Lafayette arrived here 200 years ago, he was warmly received by the people of this city, including Mayor Jaillet, whose French heritage added special significance to the occasion. Today, that same spirit of warmth and hospitality continues to be felt, and I am truly grateful for the generous welcome I have received here in Milledgeville. Lafayette played an instrumental role not only on the battlefield, but also in advancing the American cause in France, securing crucial military and financial aid that proved decisive in America's fight for independence. A visionary and a strong believer in entertainment's ideals, he risked everything to champion democracy, freedom, and justice. He also stood against slavery, advocated for Native American rights, and remained a steadfast defender of the Republic. As we gather today in a world facing multiple crises and challenges, preserving Lafayette's legacy has never been more vital. That's why we are deeply grateful for all the initiatives that helped keep his memory alive. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to the American Friends of Lafayette for their invaluable work in honoring Lafayette's legacy. Last but not least, I would like to thank the Baldwin County Lafayette Bicentennial Celebration Committee for organizing these meaningful festivities. I'm delighted to be with you today to take part in these celebrations. Long live the friendship between France and the United States, and vive Lafayette.
Thank you so much, Madame. We're so honored to have you here with us and speak to the people at our ceremony this morning. And now it is my time for our final speaker of the day. It's my honor to introduce the guest of the nation, Marie-Joseph Police Rochivet du Matier de Lafayette.
Bonjour. Bonjour. Madame and Messieurs. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege to be here, an honor. I am so moved and touched with every place that I visit, but I do not believe I have been so welcomed as I have this morning. Merci. Merci. Now, I would like to say that it was at a young age that I would read for the first time the Declaration of Independence in French. And then I will decide at the age of 19, with the help of a course with Benjamin Franklin and Silas Dean, and encouraged me to come to the United States to fight for your rights, to fight for the rights of all men. I had attached my heart to your cause. I had yet to join your colors, and so I did. While serving here, of course I would be wounded, as they have mentioned before, but it is not a problem for me, because I will continue to fight. It will not slow me down. It will not stop me for fighting for the rights of all men and the individuals that are here. The pride that I take from going from state to state is increased. The patriotism that I see before me in everyone that comes out to greet me. I am overwhelmed with joy for every reception, from statesmen, from speakers, from presidents of colleges, the people, the citizens, the soldiers. I see friends that I fought next to. I see the younger generation coming up in the military, and I am proud to be calling myself one of you. So thank you very much for that. As we have mentioned before in one of the other speeches, it was in Virginia that in a crowd much like this one, I will notice a friend of mine. And I am very pleased and happy to call him a friend. This gentleman was not only surprised that I remembered who he was, but I remembered his name. You see, this individual, James Armistead, he could read and write. The British did not know he could read and write. And so when asked to serve his country as a spy in the British headquarters, he was brave enough to say, yes, I will do that for you. He would relay those messages directly to myself. These messages were vital to the victory of Yorktown, and for that I do thank you, Monsieur. It was on this trip, this past, I believe it was October 18 of 24, when I saw him amongst the crowd, that I did go down. I stopped everything to give that man a hug. He will ask me, Monsieur, may I take your last name and use it as my own? I was honored, not only at the request, but I am more than honored to give him my last name, because I know that he will continue to bring honor to the name of Lafayette. So I wish to thank you, Monsieur. The pride that I see with everyone in front of me could not be more. I did not have the privilege of fighting on this soil in Georgia during the previous war, but I am proud to call myself one of you, as a proud supporter of the rights of all of man. So for you, I want you to look at yourselves, to look at this country, to look at this nation as a beacon of hope for all of the rest of the world, for liberty and freedom of all man. And I also hope that with every single one of my visits, I am extending my tour to all of the states of this union, all 24 of them, in order to pass along my acknowledgement, my honor, my support. And I beg of you, please accept my thanks for everything that you have done for me. It is a privilege. And I say, God bless the people of America. God bless the United States of America.
So is that worth 200 years to wait for? I believe so. I think that the ghost of Lafayette is probably somewhere lurking nearby. Thank you so much. That was absolutely fantastic, and you definitely rest assured that we consider you a true Georgian. Thank you so much. I want to thank all of our speakers today. Colonel Kraft, President Cox, Mayor Parham Copeland, Chairman Strickland, Madame Delphine Giroudi, Mr. Schwab, Mr. and Mrs. Trussell, Ms. Tate, Ms. Baker, and Mr. Jocelyn, by the way. Mr. Jocelyn represents Governor George Troup, who was governor of Georgia at the time that the Marquis came here. And of course, General Lafayette, portrayed by Charles Wissinger of Virginia. I want to thank all these wonderful young people in the Bulldog Brigade Band and the GMC Corps of Cadets for being here this morning. I really want you to recognize them. Thank you so much, too. I would also like to recognize the hard work of the Commandant of the Corps of Cadets, Colonel Robert Ramirez, in the very back. He's the short one. I'll pay for that remark later. And then Major Benjamin Carrick, also of the Corps of Cadets. Thank you, Major. He's the not-so-short one. Yeah. And then especially I'd like to thank the director of GMC Bands, Mr. Clint Rayburn, who when we first started this, and I looked at him and said, "Can you play the French national anthem?" He's like, "Me personally?" No. He just kind of looked at me and said, "We're going to give it the old GMC try." And was it not good? I mean, that was really good. It was. So just some concluding remarks here very briefly. For those of you with programs and the French and American flags, please hold on to them for the remainder of the day, especially if you're participating in other events. This program is a guide for you throughout the day. Please know that there are photo ops over at the north gate of GMC by the library at the Lafayette Monument. We're going to have the Marquis himself down there for those who would like to take photos. Also, we're going to ask Madame Delphine Giroudi to hang back just a few moments because I think, if I'm not mistaken, some of the leadership of the Corps, we're talking about photos with some of our Corps leadership. This is part of what they do in the Corps of Cadets, meeting leaders, meeting those individuals who have risen to the ranks of leadership, not only in their own countries, in our own country, but in other countries like Madame. Also, I want to share with you just quickly, our next event is at the Masonic Lodge downtown at Benevolent Lodge number 3. That's at 11:15. They're going to put the lodge at ease, and we're going to be welcomed in. We will have on display the actual chair that Lafayette sat in as he conducted the ceremony at the lodge in 1825. Now, Major Carrick, you can't sit in that chair, okay? So, but you can see it. We're going to have a special presentation to the gentleman Marvin Metters, who refurbished that chair, who passed away just a few days after he completed that, in a special ceremony at the lodge. Then we're also going to have a wreath-laying ceremony at 2:30 down at Memory Hill Cemetery, where the Marquis will honor 7 Revolutionary War soldiers who are buried within its grounds. That will lay wreaths from the National Society of the Colonial Dames of America, the DAR, and the SAR. And then finally, our grand reception at Rose Hill Mansion out on the grounds of Lockerly Arboretum. And that is a ticketed event. If you have tickets or you are a complimentary guest, please be there no later than 6:30. Thank you to Georgia Military College, whose basically the mission is duty, honor, and love of country. These young people who are here with us today are true leaders, and they have dedicated their time and efforts to help make this ceremony what it is. So I am so honored to be part of this institution. This is my 19th year, and I can tell you, every time I go through something like this, it tugs at my heart and lets me know that God has put me in the right place. Thank you so much, and that is actually going to conclude our ceremony, except for our cadet prayer. At GMC, we have cadets who offer at the end of every parade the cadet prayer, and one of our prep school cadets, Danica Risha, will recite the cadet prayer. Come on up, Danica.
Please bow your heads and join me in prayer. Almighty God, General of all life's forces, Commander of nature, we praise thy holy name. Visit thy presence upon us and all former GMC cadets. Reinforce us in our quest for knowledge, integrity, and leadership. Instill in us humanitarianism and bless our enemy, whoever he might be. Extinguish from our daily lives greed and envy, and make us champions of right and ladies and gentlemen of honor. May we glorify thy name in victory and be courageous in defeat. Help us ever to think first of our comrades and secondly of ourselves, and always of thee. Guide our footsteps and cleanse our minds. May we be first in the service of our country and first in thy service. Lead us, O Lord, that we might lead. Amen.
Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today, and this concludes our celebration and opening ceremony, or the opening ceremony at least, of the 200th anniversary of the Marquis de Lafayette's visit to Milledgeville as part of his 1824-25 farewell tour across America.
Regiment, attention! Dismissed.
Thank you, ladies.